Traditionally, energy poverty has been tackled with winter strategies, but according to latest EU statistics, around 20% of European citizens reported and households reported being too hot during summer. So we have an issue here, and it's good to deal with it too. So during this lunch talk, we will talk taking into account two perspectives. One perspective, and the first part, we will focus on an exchange around summer energy poverty concept. And the second part will an European project, Cool to Rise, will be presented, and practical recommendations to raise summer energy poverty awareness and reduce cooling needs will be presented. So to talk about all of this, we have two experts. We will start with Carmen Sánchez Guevara, professor at UPM in Spain, an expert on summer energy poverty. So Carmen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marta, and thank you to all the EPA team for inviting us to this lunch talk. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, here we go. I've prepared a very short presentation on why summer energy poverty, why we started studying it, and which is the point right now, or the main issues. I would like to start from the big framework. We do not have to miss the climate change situation we have. For us, it's very important. The most recent IPCC assessments, they not only started talking on the increase in temperatures we're going to suffer, but also on the adaptation of the population. And this is the point in which we try to focus our work, is to focus on the most vulnerable ones and how we are going to help them to adapt. And this is a extract from this last 6 assessment, in which the IPCC recalls that energy poor households often live in thermally inefficient homes and cannot afford air conditioning to adapt to overheating in summer. So this is like the key point we're talking about. And they say that climate change will also exacerbate energy poverty in European regions, where heating thus far has been the major share of energy costs. So this is what we're trying to claim from the project we bring here today, which is raising awareness. Another recent news is from the World Meteorological Organization. Recently, they released this report in which they say there's a 66% likelihood that the annual average near surface global temperature between 2023 and 2027 will be more than 1.5. I want to recall that this 1.5 increase in temperature was like a threshold not desirable, something we were not expecting to foresee till like 2030, and it seems we are going to see this increase in temperature within the next 5 years. So this increase in temperature is increasing its speed. So I want to bring here today like the urgent need for solutions we have. Sometimes I work in the university, and sometimes I think, okay, we need to stop everything and start thinking on how are we going to do this for the population, how we're going to do our cities and our buildings. In the cities, this increase in temperatures will be combined with the urban heat island effect, which is an increase in the center of the cities of an increase in the temperature compared with the rural area. So this will exacerbate even more the temperature increase. For example, our measurements in the city of Madrid, we have an increase up to 8 degrees during summertime nights, which is extremely dangerous for the population health. So we started thinking, okay, can we find urban areas in which there's a higher risk to suffer from summer energy poverty? Our perspective is always to look at the urban fabric and understand inequalities within the cities, even before we had any indicators. So unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about indicators today, but about the location of this problem. And following this approach, which is relative to the IPCC, like understanding the risk as a combination of exposure and vulnerability, we thought about that, like saying, okay, which is the risk to suffer from summertime energy poverty? Well, it can be a combination between exposure of the population and its own vulnerability. So what could be the exposure? Okay, where you live, it's exposed to a certain degree of this urban heat island. So if you live in the center of the city during these nights, you will be more exposed to these high temperatures. Here we have like the urban heat island effect for Madrid, because you can see during the daytime and the nighttime, it's not a constant effect. So we said, okay, this would be one of the indicators of the exposure, but also the, oh, sorry for the mistake in there, the low energy efficiency of the housing. So how housing behave towards heat. So these two quite simple indicators could compose the exposure, but also we need to consider the vulnerability, and we all know quite a lot about that. What could be the vulnerability? Well, the income levels of the population. So here you have for the city of Madrid, in which neighbors those households with the lowest income can be located. And also learned from our colleagues from the field of the epidemiology. We know that people over 65 years old, they are more vulnerable towards heat. Because physical reasons, basically. So then we said, okay, we can combine this and we can set which neighborhoods in the city we can locate this summer energy poverty situation. So here you have the result of where these households with the lowest incomes and living in a low energy efficiency housing stock, and also with a high exposure to urban heat island, and also where you can find these elderly people in the same situation. And this lets us directly to a certain design of urban policy, which was what we wanted, and also the idea of considering, and this is something important, and now I will leave the floor to Miguel. This is important for our research and the actions we are delivering, is that when we talk about summer energy poverty, the evaluation and of the problem, and also the proposal of solutions, they need to go beyond the physical limits of the household. What I mean is that generally when we talk about winter energy poverty, we can strictly work on the household and the housing isolation, but the outdoor part of the city, the neighborhood, it basically doesn't matter to us to propose effective solutions. But when this is another difficulty when we work on summer energy poverty, is that we need to work not only on the adaptation of the household and the behavioral adaptation of the householders, but also we need to consider what's going on in the urban area, because as we've seen here, because of the urban heat, it's going to be very important in the thermal behavior of the household. So we need to broaden like our approach. And with this idea in mind, I leave the floor to Miguel, who is going to present the project we have now and what we are proposing in this line.
Thank you, Carmen. Give me a second so I finish configuring the slides of the presentation. So, well, as Carmen was saying, I'm going to review or give a quick overview of Culturalize project and how we are approaching the recommendations to the households in this project. So Culturalize is a project that started in September 2021 and is finishing in August 2024. So it has a duration of 36 months, 3 years. We are right now halfway in the project. And as you can see, we are coordinating the project from UPM, from Madrid, but we have several entities from the southern part of Europe, right? From Greece, from Bulgaria, from Italy, and here in Spain, from Barcelona and Madrid. The objective of Culturalize, as Carmen and as you already know, because the topic of today is to reduce the incidence of summer energy poverty. So when we address this main big objective of reducing the incidence of summer energy poverty among vulnerable households, we detailed like 6 objectives in which we had to put the focus on. Besides the more like relevant in terms of numbers, and because it's related with our KPIs of reaching 7,200 people during the project, which is about 3,100 households, which is a quite big figure for the project. Besides that, we have been putting quite a lot of effort during the first half of the project in first defining or at least understanding the common framework that we have in the Southern Europe regarding summer energy poverty. So what has been said about it, and which tools do we have to address it? And then we also focus on defining solutions to tackle summer energy poverty. Within the project, we are training summer energy poverty agents which are delivering all the activities that we are carrying out in this project with vulnerable households. We are incorporating the gender perspective in a different ways. I'm not going to enter today into this, neither on the dissemination that we are carrying out, because the idea today was to focus a little bit on these solutions, right? On how are we actually approaching to the households on the recommendations that we provide to them, because Culturalize is not aimed to work on the housing level like in a hard way, sort of saying, but through recommendations and behavioral change. So as I was saying, we have been putting efforts on recapping and reviewing the different materials that we have and producing certain tools that we can use, or that households can use, and public administrations and other entities can use in order to inform households, like this deliverable, for example, the how to stay cool in summer, a collection of solutions in which we collect different solutions at 3 different scales: the user, the housing, and the housing building, and then the outdoor scale. And then we also produce these posters that are actually the ones that I'm going to focus, because I think they showcase quite well the idea that Carmen was saying before. When we are approaching, or traditionally, energy poverty in terms of intervention, or in the building, in the support that we have there, we always think about insulating, right? We isolate the interior from the exterior, and therefore we can we make it easier to guarantee certain indoor conditions that are comfortable, or at least close to comfortable conditions. When approaching to the summer perspective, we have to take into account that we have heat sources inside the house. So it's not going to be enough isolating ourselves from the outside. We are going to also put, or have in mind, both these indoor heat sources, which sources do we have, and also putting the focus on the outside, on how can we reduce the temperatures outside so we can have an impact inside. Let me maybe zoom in into these different strategies so we can talk, or at least I can show a little bit more detail about it. So as I was saying, the building envelope still relevant, as well as the infiltration levels, as these both infiltration and the envelope are relevant or are important in the winter time. So we have to still control that during the summertime. But we add on top of that other elements that we have to take into account. If we think about the indoor heat sources, we have to obviously have in mind all the appliances that we are having, right? From computers to the machines that we have in the appliances that we have in the kitchen, or the light bulbs that we have, the TV, any appliance that we have inside are potential sources of heat. And so we have to, well, think about it or have that in mind in terms of, well, identifying these heat sources. Of course, the solar radiation is going to be an added external source or heat source inside the building, inside the house. But also we have to take into account how the user is behaving inside, not just because of the presence of the appliances or how the appliances are being used, but also the behavior, the common behavior that normally is having inside the house, from the cooking level, like well, the type. We provide recommendations on how to maybe shift the cooking, so shift the recipes that are made in the house, or the cooking during the summertime, so that it's less heat intensive in terms of heat generation, and also in terms of heat gains in terms of the body, right? If we have a heavy digestion, that might be also a heat source, and also in terms of well, for example, having hot baths during the summertime to control that. In any case, so this would be more or less like a quick perspective to put a little bit more the focus into the indoor gains. But in terms of adaptive measures, you can see that, well, we have different alternatives that we can, or that we have to incorporate. Of course, the first or the most relevant strategy is to control the solar radiation entrance inside the house. So we have to block solar radiation before reaching the inside. That means that we have to block solar radiation from the outside, not from the inside. Curtains are not the most effective way to block solar radiation. So most recommended. So it's better to use awnings or even solar glass films in case we cannot install awnings because maybe our households are under a rental situation. We also focused on favoring or trying to highlight the relevance of natural ventilation or cross natural ventilation. So by opening or letting the air go through the household, opening windows in the different facades, ventilating during the nighttime instead of during the daytime if the outside temperatures are too high, incorporating, if it is possible, depending on the climate background that we have, incorporating evaporative cooling strategies such wetting the curtains, or having interior vegetation that might increase the evapotranspiration inside the house, so that would help reduce the indoor temperatures, and creating a better circulation of air through the use of fans. But that adjusted to where we are, of course. So readjust the perspective on the use of fans, not seeing it as a tool to extract the air from the inside of the house, but as a tool of moving the air or increasing the speed of the air through our skin, so we can increase the transpiration or body transpiration, and that would help us reduce the thermal sensation. And well, a lot like different strategies, as I was saying before, related with the use of appliances, related with the showering, related with the use of shutters. So different strategies focused on reducing, again, the thermal gains from the outside and also reducing the internal gains that we might have. So this is more or less related with the indoor environment. You probably will be quite confident with most of these strategies, or on most of the households there is a common culture that normally has this or most of these strategies integrated. What is not so integrated is the outdoor perspective. And in that sense, we like to put a lot of effort on transmitting this, the relevance of this outdoor space on the indoor conditions. If we have inside the house really high temperatures because of these indoor gains, and we have to reduce the temperatures inside, we have to have a heat sink outside. So in other words, we need a relatively cool air outside so that we can remove the heat from the inside. So in that sense, we identified first the heat sources outside, the most relevant heat sources outside, from the unprotected facades and openings in the building, to the type of pavements that we have. Impervious pavements might reduce the capacity of that horizontal plane to reduce the temperatures, irradiations that might happen within the urban canyon, the dark colored surfaces, both roof and so both horizontal and vertical surfaces, and of course the presence of AC systems, of air conditioning systems, which although are being every year more integrated in housing units, because in some cases it's the only way to stay cool inside. It's definitely maladaptive strategy in the long run, because we are putting all that heat or pumping all that heat to the outside through the street level, in which we are going to actually try to use that air as well to reduce the temperatures inside. So regarding the adaptive measures that we can incorporate at the outdoor level, we can start from, well, of course, the relocation of the AC systems in other places that are not putting the heat to the urban canyon, but also focus on the reflectiveness of the surfaces. So increase the reflectiveness of the surfaces so we do not these surfaces do not absorb that much heat. Increase, of course, the presence of vegetation in order to increase to reduce the incidence of solar radiation both in facades and the horizontal level. Increase the evapotranspiration. So vegetation increases or produces evapotranspiration, which at the end reduces the urban temperatures. We also focus in climates such as dry climates, such as the one that we have in Madrid, into the evaporative cooling. So the use of water misting systems, fountains, etc., in order to reduce those temperatures. Focusing on shading as well, and in general, well, as you can see, a common or big battery of different strategies that we can adopt in order to adapt our outdoor environment to the situation in which that we are right now of climate change. So yeah, I don't know if it was too chaotic at the end, but that would be like more or less the overview of different strategies that we try to communicate to the households, both indoors and outdoors. And I don't know if you might have some questions, because I think that with that I would finish the presentation.